Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
The steps needed to access the other side are the same as this side. Turn the wheel to give yourself better access to the lining.
Remove the rivets. Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener. Remove the bolt by turning it counterclockwise.
So now that we have the two fasteners and the bolt out, we're going to remove this piece of trim here. You can get a panel puller if you want. My suggestion is to just kind of grab it here and just pull in a controlled manner. Just kind of wiggle and pull. We only need to pull this back up to where the bumper meets here.
Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener.
Turn the wheel to give yourself better access to the lining.
Remove the rivets. Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener. Remove the bolt by turning it counterclockwise. Remove the trim.
So now we're going to come out here, we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side, just kind of grab at the bottom and kind of pull this in a controlled manner here.
Pry up the center of the rivet first. This will unlock it. Next, pry up the base of the fastener. Remove the bolts by turning them counterclockwise.
All right, so we kind of have the sides disconnected. We have the bolts underneath, the bolts on the top, and then the wheel well off. Now we can kind of just come to the top here. We should be able to just kind of wiggle and pull back. Now there is some wiring connected to this, so be careful. Also, I did kind of put a rug on the ground here so we can kind of just set this down without worrying about anything scratching or anything like that. But once we get it here, we're going to have to come down here to the driver's side.
Push the tab and pull the connector to remove it.
So once we have those connectors disconnected, now you can see our whole bumper is completely off here. And then again, I'm just going to kind of set it here on that rug. Before we go to reattach the bumper, we want to look. Now, we have this kind of foam piece here. You can see it kind of detaches. Now, there you can see kind of this side isn't really staying up that well. So this is supposed to kind of stay right here. If for some reason this is not really staying in position, I would just recommend getting like a small piece of tape or something. And you can literally just put this on here quick and just, you know, just pop a little piece of tape on there. It's not really going to hurt anything, and it'll just hold it in place. It's not going to be visible or anything when you put the bumper back on. You can attempt to do it without putting the tape on, or again, if this is up there and it's not really moving or getting weird, then you can just put the bumper back on, no problem. So whatever you got to do, but that's just a little tip. One more thing I'm just going to point out quick is with the panel that's under here, the panel, the bumper kind of needs to sit like underneath this panel. So just keep that in mind. We're going to bring the bumper back up here. If it's not really sitting in that position, once you get it up, you can kind of readjust it as you go. So, all right. So I'm going to kind of slide this in here. Just going to bring the rug in.
Reconnect the connector.
And once we have the connectors reconnected, again, I'm going to kind of start right here and just kind of lift up. And I'm just going to basically kind of try and line up the top here. Kind of just get that into position. And then if we come to the side, we can push that in. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And then I would suggest just kind of looking underneath here. So this did get a little offline a little bit. So we will need to kind of readjust this before reattempting to put the bolts back in. So we notice when we put the bumper up that it's kind of on the top of this panel. We need to kind of get it on the other side. So you might have to just kind of pull down or kind of bend this a little bit to kind of get this into position. It's not too difficult, so shouldn't have really too many problems with it. But that's kind of how we want that to sit on there, is kind of like that. So these tabs are kind of on the outside like that.
Replace the lower panel. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Replace the lower panel. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise. Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place.
Now, when we go to put this trim back on, you're going to notice there's kind of a little tab right here on the one side. That actually needs to go between the wheel well liner and then kind of the bumper. So just make sure you're kind of getting that into position when we go to
Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place. Align the trim and secure it to the vehicle. Replace the bolt by turning it clockwise. Replace the rivets. Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place.
Turn the wheel to give yourself better access to the lining.
Replace the bolt by turning it clockwise. Replace the rivets. Align the base of the rivet first. Next, push down on the center to lock it in place. Replace the bolts by turning them clockwise.
Make sure the assembly is tight and secure.